Hello everyone, this is Professor Steve Martin with Des Moines Area Community College reviewing Chapter 7 of Police and Society, CRJ 111. And in this chapter we're going to discuss briefly policing and community relations, especially with minority groups and certain populations that we're going to serve. We'll talk about the media and how the police and media interact. We'll also talk a little bit about dealing with juvenile offenders. We'll talk about the homeless population. And we'll talk a little bit about police and ethnic and racial minority relations. How does the media influence the police? Well, I guess you need to define what the term influence is. The media and police, I would say, generally have had what could be described as a very contentious relationship throughout history. However, I think that the police at least have finally realized the benefit of working in concert with the media, and I think we've done a lot better job of that in the law enforcement community over the past 25-30 years. We've enlisted the help of media, especially through like Crime Stoppers programs, series like America's Most Wanted, where we've partnered in helping crime victims and bringing criminal suspects to justice, making our communities a safer place to be. I think those have been the positive things, and I really think the police and media need to continue to push forward to work in a more collaborative effort to make our communities safe. And when we talk about media, we're talking about several different types. Obviously, the printed media, television, and now we're moving into the online and social networking aspects of the media. I think the media on occasion, and I'm talking about primarily in movies and television shows, inaccurately portray law enforcement and the real nature of policing and certain aspects of that in the United States, which leads to some distortions, some good, some bad. But definitely inaccurate in either case. And the police are constantly fighting that battle to try to let the public know in reality how things are out there. And, you know, the media have been accused in the past of distorting things against the police, even to the point of inciting riots in some cities around the United States. I think by and large, a lot of that is exaggerated, but I do think that the media are also easy targets to be accused of that. So they're always fighting that battle for credibility. Again, like I said, the police do work positively with the media in a lot of regards, and especially when it comes to getting word out to millions of people in a short period of time. When you're looking for a suspect vehicle who, say, for instance, have been suspected of abducting someone, abducting a child, you know, you have your Amber Alerts going out. And again, the media is instrumental in getting that out to millions of viewers in a short period of time. Oh, one thing I will talk about too, many law enforcement agencies, especially the larger ones around the country, have what's called a public information officer now, and that officer is more or less the face of the department and will be the official spokesperson for information coming out of that department. This is a position that you do attend specialized training for, and again, that person is more or less the spokesperson and the go-to person for information of a public nature coming out of a law enforcement agency. We then shift to talk a little bit about juveniles and police dealing with juveniles, a little bit of the history of juvenile justice in the United States. Quite frankly, juveniles enjoyed very few rights as criminal defendants in the United States for many years. They really didn't be recognized as having any civil liberties, or very few, up until the mid-1960s, at which point they were afforded some rights of due process, and also some Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections, and even Sixth Amendment access to legal counsel and notification of charges. Those types of things were finally granted to them. But one of the interesting things about the juvenile system is that still, even in the juvenile court system, they aren't necessarily granted automatic rights to a jury trial. That's still exclusively in the adult system in most cases. Um, the juvenile justice system is set up in a more informal format, if you will, than the more formal adult criminal justice system, and so discretion plays a large part into how to deal with juvenile offenders, and that is no less the case on the police side of things, where the police use discretion in how to deal with juveniles, especially first-time offenders, status offenders. That it's a crime because of their age type of thing. There's a lot of discretion that goes into whether to formally charge somebody or not, whether to refer them to juvenile court authorities for further action, or just to give them a verbal warning and send them on their way. So it's a fairly informal process on the police side, like it is the other parts of the juvenile justice system. The homeless population is another special population that the police often deal with. And the homeless population usually see the police before they do any other governmental or social service agency, simply because, the homeless are usually the target of people calling in complaining about them loitering or living somewhere where they shouldn't be living, and the police get called and are expected to deal with the problem. Unfortunately, what you find is that the police are ill-equipped to deal with the homeless, simply because the cause for homelessness is out of the control of the police. It goes much deeper than anything the police can do to really help them. Lack of affordable housing, a bad economy, lack of jobs. And probably the most important thing regarding the homeless is the deinstitutionalization of mental patients, which have turned many people with mental illness back onto our streets. And a sizable portion of our homeless population does suffer from mental illness in various ways, shapes, and forms, and they don't get the treatment that they need. And therefore, the police are expected to deal with these folks effectively, and the police really turn out just being a Band-Aid from day to day. And really don't have any long-term solutions for these folks. I think the long-term solutions actually lie in our social service agencies and also legislators to try to figure out more long-term solutions to the nature of the homeless problem. Police relations with racial and ethnic minorities. In particular, African Americans. The police and African Americans historically have had a very contentious relationship throughout our history for a wide variety of reasons. It dates all the way back to the beginning of our country. And, I think like a lot of other things historically, with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, that laid the groundwork for a recognition of everyone, regardless of race, color, creed, origin, things like that, to have the same basic rights and protections from the government and by the government. And it's still something that is ever evolving, as is the relationship between minorities and the police. Sir Robert Peel explained in creating the London Metropolitan Police in 1829 that the police are the community and the community are the police, and so a law enforcement agency should have in its ranks representatives of all segments of the population they serve. And so we have made concerted efforts and passed laws to try to get more minorities and women in the ranks of law enforcement agencies, and I think this is becoming more common and is becoming more appealing to minority applicants, and is something that is beginning to evolve around the country. Of course, when you have the police that predominantly have been white males throughout the history of the United States. There are going to be allegations from racial and ethnic minorities that either their areas are underpoliced because the police just don't feel they're that important, to allegations that they are over-policed, that the police are there all the time to target their specific racial or ethnic group because of who they are. And so that's something that the police are constantly battling. And again, with the advent of a strong community policing type of program, you can battle and actually overcome a lot of those stereotypes and allegations. Racial profiling is an issue that we hear about on a regular basis. Someone is accusing a law enforcement agency or particular officers of racially profiling them. To me, literally, racial profiling means that you took, or an officer stopped someone or took some type of an enforcement action simply based on the way somebody looked. And in the United States, for an officer to take some type of an enforcement action against somebody or to stop somebody and question them, there has to be established either reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they've committed a crime. And regardless of what somebody looks like, if you have those things in place, then it's not racial profiling. It's simply racial profiling if you take some type of an action because of the way somebody looks. And it's no more or no less that. And I think a lot of people confuse that. The issues that affect police relations with Hispanic Americans, again, this is something that's evolving and evolving rapidly because the Hispanic population in the United States is evolving rapidly and growing. It's the fastest growing segment of our society. And one of the things that we battle constantly is the language barrier between officers and this ethnic group. And I tell a lot of my criminal justice students that it would really benefit them to learn some basic Spanish, because when they get out into the workforce, they're going to need that. The text kind of wrapped up talking about the history of people immigrating to the United States, and again, early on, it was a lot of immigration from Europe, and eventually, especially post World War II, we started seeing a lot more immigration from the Pacific Rim and other Asian countries, and even from Mexico and Central America, and that kind of brings us up to the present day, where again we see a lot of immigration from Mexico and Central America and other parts of the world as well. We're seeing more immigrants from African countries, and I think that's the real challenge for law enforcement in the United States. It always has been and always will be, is adjusting to the changing ethnic and racial demographic of our country and trying to address the needs of those folks, and also trying to get them to join law enforcement agencies so that our agencies are more representative of the populations they serve. That's something that law enforcement is going to be required to stay up on, to stay on top of. Anyway, that wraps up Chapter 7. I hope you enjoyed it, so we'll see you in Chapter 8.